Welcome to the Pagan Playground, week 49. I think last week's was probably my favorite question thus far. It's something that was definitely up my alley. This is week 48. This is week 49. Show us your favorite DIY technique, such as candle making, wood carving, etc. I don't know if I don't think I did a video on that. I did make my own candles because I recycled the candles, but can't remember why I didn't bother anymore. So I've just been doing the tapers because I guess I've been getting lazy. As far as what do I do? Can't really show you that really. I could. I should have read ahead apparently. Show us your favorite DIY. I can explain my favorite DIY technique as far as something that I work with. The reason I can't show you my DIY techniques is because I don't have a way to film it. You know, I can't manipulate what I do, so I'll have to explain it. So, sadly, that's what you're going to have to deal with. So, I will explain how I made incense, and how, well, I will continue to make incense, but during the this past Renaissance fair, I managed to get an actual sage bundle, which apparently will last me for the next 50 years, so I might not have to use this DIY technique. So, I made my own sage incense, which I buried somewhere around here, but how about if I turn the other direction? There we go. Now, this isn't the sage incense that I've been making, but this is the type of, you know, the cone incense I make. These are professionally done, but I was making little cones. Now, what I would use would be a coffee grinder, because you want to get it as fine as possible because it'll burn a little better. Sage is fine, and you can get away with not puffing it up as much more, but it does help. So a coffee grinder and or mortar and pestle. No, actually you do need the mortar and pestle. Gum Arabic. The only place I've ever been able to find gum Arabic is in Michael's. And if you're lucky and you get the half off card, or your coupon, you can get it for like $7. And it's a bottle about yay big, but you only need the tiniest smidgen, and you need some water. And your fingers, and preferably a paper plate. So, I will try to explain this. Grind up your sage, or, I mean, I use it for sage, but you can use whatever, anything you want to use your incense for when you're making incense, whatever your incense flavor is. Grind it up as best you can. And add your gum Arabic. That's what's going to kind of stick things together. Now, for a pile of incense about this big, raw incense, before you make it into cones, you would only need about come with me. Maybe this much gum Arabic, and it's, so this is your spices, this is how much gum Arabic you might need, maybe a little more. It depends on the spices you're using, and it's something you kind of have to figure out for yourself. Now, you add water as well. You want it sticky enough for it to coerce. So add the gum Arabic first, stir as much as you can, and slowly dribble your little water in. You do not want schmutz. You want it to stick together enough, but you want it to be light enough where you're not going to have a hard rock. Again, it depends on what spices you're using. So the consistency was something you kind of have to learn for yourself. Now they do have cone molds, which, you know, this is what this is made out of. These are random incenses. This is what I use for my offering daily for the Lord and Lady. And again, I got these at the Renaissance Fair, the only place I can get them. So I scared the man. I bought like a year's worth, and he's like, "You paid $30 for a worth of incense. It's gonna last me a year, dude." So I didn't want just like random crap from like Walmart. This is special incense I can only get there, and I know it's good quality. So I'm not quite sure what the molds look like, if they are in this shape, or actually yes, I think they are, because I think I was looking for them. But they're kind of expensive, which is why I don't possess them. But if you use ghetto like me, you can utilize fingers, and depending on how much you want to burn, kind of, let's see, those maybe last 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Again, depending on the mixture you're using, the ratios are all going to be different. Obviously, the smaller the cone, the less time it's going to burn. But the bigger the cone, the longer it's going to take to dry. Now, you should be able to ball up your incense, and it's not going to go fall apart. You know, it's going to stick together, and then just shape your little ball into whatever, you know, however big you want your incense cone, and then just, you know, manipulate it by hand. Then once you get your cone, flatten it out on either your hand, and I use a paper plate, and then it'll stick to the paper plate. So, you know, just position your little cones, however many you've made, on your paper plate. Set it aside for however long it takes to dry. It might be dry on the outside. Tip it over. If it's still kind of wet on the bottom, you still need it to dry. And again, it might vary depending on where you live. You know, if it's a damp environment, it might take longer to dry. You know, just leave it be, air dry, and then, you know, test one and write down the recipe. Always useful. How much gum arabic you used, how much spices you used, what spices you used, maybe even how long it took to dry. And when you light one up, if it goes too fast, you maybe need less gum arabic. If it doesn't light at all and it's hard as a rock, you need more water, maybe more gum arabic. It's something you kind of, again, have to judge depending on what spices you're using. And there's something, was it mako powder or something like that? I'm not quite sure how that works, because do you just add the water and the mako powder is sticky in itself? Because every time I've googled like how to make incense, that's kind of what always comes up. And you can't find it in like craft stores. You have to like buy it online, and then it's like this much for like $12. So I'm like, I don't know. So the gum arabic works for me. You don't need a lot of it. Again, use a coupon. Otherwise, the stuff is like $14. And I guess it's in the painting section. I can't remember why they use it in the painting section. I think it's to like thicken up paint, or thin it out, one or the other. So that is my DIY technique for making incense. I did candle making. That's a little more awkward to kind of show you. Again, I use ghetto techniques. If you do votives, those are words. Votive Dixie cups. Pop a hole in the bottom, string your wick. Perfect votive size. Then you can just peel it off and then throw it away. And I got like was it a gravy strainer to boil the water in? Because it's like, whatever's, you know, there's ways to cut corners. So, sorry I can't show you because of the way things are situated. I have no way to like properly show you. But I hope my explanation was at least amusing in some way. So that is my favorite technique for making incense. So thank you for watching, and even if you have tips on, like, you know, where maybe you can get mako, different things on how to make incense, and you want to share here, do. So thank you for watching, and blessed be.